Dear students, this is the final session of third chapter, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Here we are going to discuss about financial sector reforms, tax reforms, foreign exchange reforms, then trade and investment reforms, then the term privatization and globalization. And the last term is WTO, World Trade Organization. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss today. Financial sector reforms. Financial sector includes institutions dealing in banking, insurance, investment banking, capital market operations, and foreign exchange reforms. So, financial sector means it is the total of institutions dealing with the banking, insurance, investment banking, capital market operations, and foreign exchange reforms. So, what are the financial sector reforms that took place during 1991? The important financial sector reforms are bank branch licensing liberalized. Earlier, there were restrictions regarding bank branch licensing. Now, as a part of financial sector reforms, the bank branch licensing liberalized. Now, every bank can start their own branches. The licensing procedures are liberalized. Then, new generation private banks and foreign banks allowed. Earlier, foreign banks and new generation private banks are not allowed, but the restriction was removed as a part of financial sector reforms. Then, deposit and lending rates deregulated. Changes have made to the deposit rate. Deposit rate means it is the interest rate at the time of depositing money into the institutions, bank and all. Then lending rate is it is the rate fixed at the time of lending money to the people by the bank. Both these deposit rate and lending rates was deregulated. Changes made to lending rate and deposit rate. Then new life insurance and general insurance companies were allowed in the private sector. Earlier, there were restrictions regarding to the private sector for starting life insurance and general insurance companies. Now they are allowed. Then mutual funds open to private sector. Then foreign institutional investors are allowed to invest in Indian capital market. As we know that we adopted a policy called the import substitution and licensing, etc., in order to protect the domestic industries and in order to protect the domestic industries. So our main aim was substituting imports with the domestic production. And the same policy we followed in the investment matters also. But as a part of financial sector reforms, foreign investors are allowed to invest in Indian capital market. All the restrictions were removed. So these are the important financial sector reforms that took place during 1991. Bank branch licensing liberalized, new generation private banks and foreign banks are allowed. Then deposit rate and lending rate deregulated. Then new life insurance and general insurance companies were allowed in the private sector. Mutual funds open to the private sector. Then foreign institutional investors are allowed to invest in Indian capital market. So financial sector means it is a sector, it includes banks, insurance companies, investment banks, capital market operations and foreign exchange reforms. The next reform is tax reforms or otherwise known as fiscal reforms. What is tax reforms? These are the policies set for the government's taxation and public expenditure policies. So tax reforms were introduced as a part of liberalization and economic reforms. These are the government's taxation and public expenditure policy. It is the policy of government on public expenditure and government revenue and public debt. Then important tax reforms. The very first one was reduction in personal income tax. The personal income tax was reduced as a part of tax reforms. Then reduction in corporate tax. What is corporate tax? Corporate tax means it is otherwise known as corporation tax. It is a tax imposed on the net income of the company. Companies have to pay a certain amount of tax to the government, and that amount is called a corporate tax. Personal income tax means it is calculated on the personal income of the people, while a corporation tax or corporate tax is calculated on the net income of the company. Both private and public companies which are registered in India under the Companies Act are liable to pay corporate tax. Both private companies and the public companies have to pay corporate tax. Then both the corporation tax and personal income tax was reduced. Then reduction in excise duty. What is excise duty? It is the duty or tax which is charged on the manufacture of goods within the country. Excise duty is charged on the manufacture of goods within the country, while customs duty is levied on goods coming from the outside the country. Both excise duty and the customs duty was reduced. Excise duty is charged on the goods manufactured within the country, while customs duty is charged from goods coming outside the country. Both the charges reduced. So these are the important tax reforms. Reduction in personal income tax, reduction in corporate tax, and reduction in excise duty, and the final one, reduction made in the customs duty. Then there are mainly two types of tax. One is direct tax and the other one is indirect tax. What is direct tax? If the tax is paid directly to the government by individuals or entities on whom it is imposed, that's called a direct tax. If the tax is directly paid to the government by individuals on whom it is imposed, then it's called direct tax. Example, income tax. Income tax is paid by the person on whom it is imposed. That means I will pay my income tax, and if you have to pay your own income tax, you don't need to pay others' income tax. Then corporation tax is also like that. It is direct tax. It is directly paid to the government by the company. Then indirect tax means it is a tax collected and remitted by one, whereas the impact fall upon the other. If tax is paid by one person and the impact is fall upon another person, then it's called a indirect tax. Example, sales tax. Sales tax is paid by the person who is purchasing that particular product, but the amount is but the amount is transferred. I mean, the amount is remitted by the another person to the government. If you are directly paying that amount to the government, that's called direct tax. If we are actually it is paid by one person, but the impact fall upon another person. The tax collected and remitted by one, whereas the impact fall upon another person. In case of excise duty is also like that. One person is paying the amount, the other person is collecting the amount and giving to government. So it is not direct transaction. That's why it is called indirect tax. The next topic is foreign exchange reforms or external sector reforms. Foreign exchange policies and foreign trade policies were covered in the external sector reforms. So foreign exchange reforms include our foreign exchange policies and our foreign trade policies. These are intended to increase the international trade between countries. Various reforms initiated in this sector to develop foreign exchange reserves, and the important reforms were devaluation of rupee. Devaluation of rupee means the value of the rupee was deliberately devalued to encourage export and discourage imports. So it is a process by which the central bank of a country reduces the value of a particular currency in respect of another currency. That process is called a devaluation. Devaluation is a process by which it is executed by the central bank of a country through which They reduces the value of a particular currency in respect of another currency. That's called a devaluation of rupee. In 1991, to increase foreign exchange reserves and exports were promoted and all relevant benefits were provided to exporters. So in order to increase foreign exchange reserves and exports were promoted and all relevant benefits were provided to exporters. So devaluation means reducing the value of the domestic currency while compared to foreign currencies. It prevents capital outflow and encouraged capital inflows and exports. Then the next one is exchange rate. Exchange rate means it is the rate at which one currency is exchanged for another. So the exchange rate formerly determined by RBI, now it was replaced by market determined exchange rate. Exchange rate means it is the rate at which one currency is exchanged for the another currency. For example, rupees 60 is equal to $1. So that range is called exchange rate. It is the rate at which one currency is exchanged for another currency. $1 is equal to rupees 60. That's called the exchange rate. And formerly it was determined, that rate was determined by Reserve Bank of India. Now it is determined by market determined exchange rate. So there are two types of exchange rate. One is fixed exchange rate and the other one is flexible exchange rate. Fixed exchange rate means when exchange rate is determined by central bank of a country, it is called a fixed exchange rate. If the exchange rate is determined by central bank of that particular country, then it's called a fixed exchange rate. And flexible means it is a type of exchange rate where currency value is determined by market forces, that is demand and supply. If demand and supply determines the exchange rate, that's called a flexible. It is otherwise known as market determined exchange rate. So what are the major change took place in exchange rate? Earlier it was determined by central bank of our country. Exchange rate was determined by central bank of our country. Who is the central bank of our country? RBI. Reserve Bank of India determines the exchange rate. Now it is determined by market forces, that is demand and supply. So these are the major changes that took place in a foreign exchange. One is devaluation of a rupee. Devaluation means it is a process by which a central bank of a country reduces the value of particular currency in respect of another currency. And exchange rate, it is the rate at which one currency is exchanged for another currency. Formerly it was determined by RBI, now it is determined by demand and supply. Devaluation prevented capital outflow and encouraged capital inflows and exports. Trade and investment reforms. This is the last reform. To promote trade and investment, following reforms were introduced. Very first one is imports liberalized. Then quantitative restrictions, which we discussed in the second chapter. Quotas were removed. Then import duties were reduced. Import licensing abolished except in case of hazardous and environment sensitive industries. And the last one, export duties were removed to encourage exports. So these are the 5 major changes that took place in trade and investment in order to promote trade and investment. All imports were liberalized. There were restrictions regarding imports. Now, as a part of trade and investment reforms, all the restrictions were liberalized. Then quantitative restrictions removed. There is no limit on the quantity of imports. Then import duties. reduced. Import licensing. All importing activities need licensing, but now, but the situation was changed. Only hazardous and environment sensitive industries need licensing in case of importing. Then export duties were reduced. Were removed. Export duties are removed to encourage export. Then only people will export. So export duties were removed. The next topic is privatization. Privatization means giving away ownership or management of government enterprise to private companies. So privatization means giving away or changing or converting the ownership or management of government enterprise to private companies. So the conversion of government enterprise into private companies is called a privatization. India started privatization as a part of structural adjustment program. Privatization means it is a process that reduces the participation of the state. State means government. It reduces the participation of government or public sector in economic activities of the country. So simply privatization means it is the process that reduces the participation of government in economic activities of a country. Conversion of government-owned enterprise into private-owned enterprise is known as privatization or otherwise known as denationalization. Conversion of government-owned enterprises into private-owned enterprise is known as privatization, and the other name of privatization is denationalization. Government-owned enterprise are converted into private companies by two ways. The very first one is by withdrawal of the government ownership and management, and the second way is by outright sale of public sector companies. Outright means complete sale. So there are two methods through which private companies are converted into government enterprises. The very first is government is withdrawing their ownership and management from government owned companies. Then second one, they are selling the public sector companies, completely selling public sector companies to private sector companies. So again, I'm repeating, privatization is the conversion of government owned enterprise into private owned enterprise. It is otherwise known as denationalization, and there are two methods by which private government companies are converted into private companies. Very first one is government withdrawing their ownership and management from government companies, and the second method is by complete sale of public sector companies to private sector. The next term is disinvestment. Disinvestment means selling government investment in public sector undertakings. It is one of the form of privatization. The selling of government investment or government equity in public sector undertaking is known as disinvestment. Again, I am repeating, disinvestment is a form of privatization. Disinvestment means selling government share or government's investment in public sector undertakings. Then what are the aims of disinvestment? Improving the management of public sector undertakings. PSU stand for public sector undertaking through superior management and technique. Why government is selling their portion or their share in public sector undertakings? In order to improve the public sector undertakings. Then improving the financial performance of public sector undertakings through financial discipline. Then enhancing the ability of companies to raise financial resource from the market. And the last one, raising revenue for the government from sale of equity. So these are the major aims of disinvestment: improving the management and financial performance of public sector undertakings, then enhancing their ability to raise financial resource from the market itself, then raising revenue for the government from sale of equity. So by selling government's share in public sector undertakings, government can raise their revenue. So this is disinvestment. Disinvestment is one of the form of privatization, which means selling government's equity or government's investment in public sector undertakings. Next topic is globalization. Globalization means integration of countries in the world. Integration of all countries in the world is known as globalization. Integration means joining together, means connecting to all countries in the world. That's called a globalization. It indicates opening up of the economy for the world market. If we are removing all restrictions, all kinds of import and export restrictions, then we are opening up of our economy. So any country can export or import from our country. That's called globalization. Removal of all kinds of restriction. Opening up of the economy for the world market. There will be free flow of goods and services, capital, knowledge and people across national borders. If we are opening up of our economy, then there will be free flow of goods and services. Goods and services will be available to every country. There is no restriction. And the capital will be transferred from one country to another country. Knowledge, people, etc. will be transferred. That process is called a globalization. It is the opening up of the economy for the world market. It is the integration of countries in the world. Then outsourcing, it is one of the sure question. Outsourcing is the impact or important outcome of globalization process. Simply outsourcing means sourcing from outside. If a company hires regular service from external sources, mostly from other countries, that's called outsourcing. We are very much familiar about outsourcing. For example, our computer professionals, then IT enabled services, legal services, animation and accounting. These are major these are the examples of outsourcing. Sourcing means outsourcing means sourcing from outside. Developed countries are outsourcing many services from developing countries like India. They are using our IT enabled services, means people. Uh, People for doing computer programs, IT enabled services, animation, etc., accounting, etc. That is called outsourcing. So, what is globalization? It is the integration of all countries. Then, what is outsourcing? Outsourcing means sourcing. I mean, resourcing. What is the other name of sourcing? Mm, recruiting persons from outside. Simply recruiting persons from outside. The next topic is World Trade Organization, otherwise known as WTO. Uh, GATT. GATT means General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. Was established in 1948 with 23 member countries. The main objective was to promote trade by removing restrictions on international trade like quota and tariff. So there was an institution called the GATT. GATT stands for General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. It was established in 1948. And what was the purpose of establishing GATT? The main objective was to promote or encourage international trade by removing restrictions like quota and tariff. The important objective of GATT was removing all kinds of restriction from international trade and promoting trade. Now, in 1995, GATT was replaced by the WTO. So, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, that institution was replaced with the WTO, or otherwise known as World Trade Organization, in 1995. So WTO established in 1995 and GATT was established in 1948. Main aims of WTO. The very first one is equal opportunities to all countries in the world. That is the first aim of WTO. World Trade Organization gives equal opportunities for all countries. There is no kind of discrimination. Then encouraging multilateral trade rather than bilateral trade. Bilateral trade means a trade between two countries. Multilateral means more than two countries. So encouraging trade with more than two countries was the main aim of WTO. Then removal of all kinds of tariff and non-tariff barriers. Removal of all kinds of restrictions from international trade. Then extension of trade by including trade in services like banking and insurance, etc. The another aim was extension of trade. Means uh, trade includes trade in services like banking, insurance uh, also come under the scope of trade. So these are the main aims of WTO, giving equal opportunities to all the countries and then encouraging multilateral trade, then removal of all kinds of barriers, then extension of trade by including services also like banking, insurance. Thank you.